Good morning, Hugues.
Hey, good afternoon, Sherman. How are you?
Good, great to see your smiling face. I know that you've been, quite busy. It's wonderful to be kind of back on the conference schedule for our listeners. I'm here with Hugues Jaquemin, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Northern Graphite. Northern Graphite, for most people that have been following the story closely, are very pleased to be able to walk around and say that we're the only producing graphite mine in North America. And how did you pull that off, Hugues?
Well, it goes back to the work we did in the last year and a half, and the transaction we did by buying the mines from Imerys, which closed at the end of April, where we basically acquired the Imerys mine in Quebec, in Lac des Îles, and basically it made us the only producing graphite mine in North America. And that asset also came along with the one in Namibia, which once it gets up and running next year will make us the third largest outside of China, and really fits well with our ambition, to be the largest producer of graphite in the world outside of China. I think, from our perspective, the mine in Quebec is running well, and we're very happy with it. I was there last week introducing some investors, as well as our new CFO, who joined us a couple of weeks ago, Guillaume Jacques. He's a very experienced guy. Actually, him and I worked together at Imerys. He was my CFO when I was CEO there. And as soon as I joined Northern Graphite, I reached out for him and asked him if he would be willing to join us. And he had a pretty long notice period, so we had to wait 3 months before he actually joined us. But he's now on board full time. And it's been great. And while we were in Quebec last week, we also brought in the rest of the management team. And we spent 2 days together, really going through all the plans that we have and all the actions that we are taking, and aligning each other to make sure that we deliver on our promises, which is very important to us. And it was very successful 2 days. And so things are going very well. And, we are consolidating our position. We're integrating these new mines. We're getting them restarted in Namibia. And we are starting to work on the future of the company, because, our intention is not to stop here, but it's to continue to create value for our shareholders in the graphite space, but also, processing graphite itself. And so we've been working at that quite a bit in the last few months.
Well, I think as I mentioned just prior to us, jumping onto the call, the recorded call anyway, is I was recently in Beaver Creek, Colorado, and it's a very good show, and it's a real good collection of public companies similar to Northern Graphite, maybe a little bit more towards the precious metal side, and just a whole very strong group of institutional investors. It was just great to have everybody, kind of back in the room. And I know that you were recently in France, I think at a conference in Paris. And I guess one of the questions I had for you, Hugues, this morning is just to maybe give us a bit of an update on the pulse or the energy around the graphite space. I know that in my meetings, my one-to-one meetings in Beaver Creek, there was a huge amount of interest in Northern Graphite, and in graphite in particular. I mean, we continue to, really focus on informing investors, making them aware of the importance of this energy transition, and how important graphite is to that story. And I just really was excited to get an update from you from more of a global Paris point of view. I mean, Beaver Creek was pretty global, but a lot of North Americans at that conference. But certainly in Europe, I mean, we often just great to get your international feel for what.
Sure.
I guess a couple of things. What's going on with these markets? I mean, we've got a real bounce back today, and it's something we talked about earlier today as well. Amongst a lot of my associates, and I work with a lot of presidents and CEOs of mining companies, and just last week we were going like, holy man, investors, some of these stocks that got beaten down to these low market caps, whether it was from Northern Graphite from the high 60s into the 50s, but some stocks that went down to like pennies, like 10, 15 cents, and are forced to be doing financings. And it's a really opportune time for investors to be, buying, but make sure you focus on good quality stories. And I mean, clearly Northern Graphite is one of those stories where it's got production, it's got excellent management, it's got a low market cap. And anyway, I'll turn it back to you as to what
Sure.
was the flavor and what was the energy like in Europe?
So, I will start with your first question about the conferences in Europe. Actually, I attended two recently in Europe. There was a Fast Market conference in Barcelona. That was quite a large event. It was put together by Fast Market around battery materials, and all the attendees was really interested in battery materials. I myself participated in one of the panels during which we discussed, what the future of graphite demand is going to look like, and is there going to be enough graphite in order to build batteries, because the electrical vehicle revolution is driving demand in such a way that we have seen lithium and we have seen the other metals really being talked about, but graphite hasn't really been talked about so much in the last couple of years. And now it's becoming on the agenda. And, it's pretty obvious that there is not enough graphite out there, and there needs to be a lot more. And the fact that, we're producing today and we're ramping up capacity, and we have two large development projects with a team of more than 100 people today, really going after it full speed, I think it really makes us very relevant in this space. And during that conference, I met a lot of colleagues and other metals suppliers to the industry, OEMs, investors, and it was great. It was extremely vibrant, very busy, and I think it's very, very promising for us, because we're right in the middle of this revolution, and we're part of a revolution, and we're contributing to solving a lot of the problems in this industry. And I feel really, really good about that. The second conference I attended is the one you referred to in France. And there we were invited along another 8 or 9 CEOs to present our companies to a group of potential investors. I think there were about 30 of them in total. And during that conference, I was able, alongside the other CEOs, to make my presentation and get questions, and then really talk to these people one-on-one during the 3 days that we were there, to explain to them what's happening with batteries, why is graphite so important, and the fact that, graphite is 50% of the battery. And that's why the demand is going to be huge. And what are our plans in order to be able to make sure that there is supply of those materials in North America, with our North American producing assets, but also with our development project in Bissett Creek, Ontario, and then also in Namibia, because we intend to use that deposit to supply the European market. And therefore, there was a lot of interest about how we intend to do that and in what quantities. And, if you look at the total demand for graphite that is projected by Benchmark in 2029, we're talking about 2 million tons. And at Northern Graphite today, we have the capacity to be able to develop our company to supply up to 300,000 tons of graphite with the existing deposits that we have to do on an annual basis. So, we can become a very, very significant player in that space, and that's what we're working hard for. But at the same time, we're currently producing today. We are servicing customers in the market today, and alongside the developments that we're doing to supply the battery industry, we're also working with our existing customers to supply all the other markets that use graphite today. And there are many. You're talking about refractories, you're talking about alkaline batteries, you're talking about friction applications like brake pads. You're talking about electronics industry that's using graphite as a way to dissipate heat in most of the electronics that most of you buy today. We're talking about, high def TVs. We're talking about cell phones. So, there are many fundamentals in the graphite industry, specifically around North America and Europe, that are driving, high demand for our products today. And we're very excited about that. And we have some wonderful customers that value our product. The products coming out of Lactazil, are recognized as some of the best products in the market today. And so, we recently published our half-year results, and we can see that we're actually generating cash out of our mine in Lactazil, servicing those markets, and those markets are also concerned about the potential shortage, because if there's shortage for batteries, there's also shortage for them. And so for us to understand all the applications they're in and how we can support them is pretty important. And so we're spending a lot of time doing that, understanding where graphene is going, where fuel cells are going. I'm in France right now talking to a fuel cell company and what their demands are going to be for the future, and what the technology around graphite plates. I mean, the plates, the bipolar plates in those fuel cells are made of graphite. And so they are doing a lot of development and it's growing fast. Europe and North America are investing billions of dollars into the hydrogen industry. And the only way to transform graphite into electricity is to to transform hydrogen into electricity is to use a bipolar plate. And a lot of those plates today are made of graphite because they perform the best and they last the longest, And so we are very active. And the 100 people, that are in Northern Graphite today are working hard every day to continue to grow these applications and to support the market, as well as to start getting into this lithium-ion battery business, which will really come around in the US in 24, 25, because all these factories are being announced, but they're not producing today. So, all those OEMs are talking to us about potential supply because they definitely would like to source their graphite from North America, in particular with regards to this Inflation Reduction Act, what people refer to as IRA. It's a very important point because basically, if the graphite comes from North America, it will enable those OEMs to get better support from the government, and Canada is included in that. So, we are occupying a premium spot right now to supply that market, and that's very important for us.
That's a really good point. I mean, it's we often in the investment business talk about the jurisdictional risk or lack of it, and certainly having that kind of a unique position in the graphite space, I think is really important. And for our listeners, I'm here with Hugues Jaquemin, who's the CEO of Northern Graphite. Hugues, what a great overall update. That was really good. I'm making notes myself, and I've been involved in this story for many years. So I think some of the key bullet points, and I think that's our whole objective, is to build some awareness around really good investment stories. And I can't help but hang on your quote that Northern Graphite is part of the revolution. And for investors to fully appreciate it is, and sometimes we just got to keep things sort of simple.
Yeah.
And I was out on I'm a big fan of electric bikes, and in particular, I have an electric fat bike, and I use it a lot. I mean, I commute to work, and I go to the grocery store, and then I can even go out for a ride on a single track in Cal Park in the Okanagan, because these electric fat bikes are kind of like mountain bikes, but they've got an assist. And I just feel, I do nothing but think about Northern Graphite my whole ride, knowing that 50% of that battery is made out of graphite.
Yep.
And I think, here's Northern Graphite with a relatively low market cap, really good management. You're proof, we're part of the revolution. We're 50% of the battery. I mean, come on, and at 50 cents a share, I think, investors, you really need to focus on those kind of quality stories.
Yeah.
So whether you're looking for a good tin company or a good copper company or a good, graphite story, find the kind of fundamentals that Hugues is talking about. And so, Hugues, I really want to thank you.
I just want to say one thing, Sherman. Sorry if I interrupt you, but
no, it's okay.
People have to understand, that we talk about gigafactories, right? And people have to understand that when you produce 1 giga of batteries, you need 800 tons of graphite.
Wow.
Okay. On average, of course, this is on average. Some will use more, some will use a bit less. But on average, to produce 1 gigawatt of lithium ion batteries, you need 800 tons of graphite.
Wow.
And so some of these factories, they are talking about 50 or 100 gigawatts, right? So you imagine how much graphite they will need.
Yeah.
And if it comes from North America, we fall within the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, which, today we are the only producer in North America. So we are getting a lot of calls from people to see how they can use our graphite in their batteries. Now, there's still work to be done. It's not a done deal. We have to do the development of a mine in Bissell Creek and so on, but, we're extremely well positioned, and we have a team of 100 so people that are working on this every day, and it's growing. We have 50 open positions today. We're still recruiting very, very quickly. We have cash on the balance sheet. We're generating cash. We don't need to do any financing in this very terrible market today, but we will be requiring more financing in the future, and we're there. And it would be great for people to follow us and to invest in us. We're definitely a very interesting company to look at if you're believing into the EV revolution, which I believe in strongly, you believe in strongly, many people do. So, we're a very interesting player.
Well, thanks again for the time, and I think it does set up, what I call, kind of a classic double dip. I mean, you've got this amazing opportunity to enter the graphite space in general, which is already sort of undervalued just because it's going to grow.
Yeah.
And then you also can buy an undervalued fundamental business, which is run by capable people. So investors get the bump of the graphite price and then the bump that they've bought these shares at a discount. And that's really, really important because that can dramatically enhance the overall rate of return. So buying undervalued companies in a growing sector is just really smart. And I think, we've done a good job today. I can't remember which analyst said, tell the story in a way that a kindergarten could understand it. But I think we did a good job today. And if there was any kindergarten people in here, I'm sure they'd be buying stock. So thanks so much again for your time, Hugues. And
Thank you, Sherman.
We'll be in touch next week.
Thank you very much, Sherman. Appreciate your support and the support of our investors. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hugues.